welcome to the Staff Hearing Officer meeting for June 1st, 2022. My name is Ellen Kokinda. First, I'm going to open it up for preliminary matters, any requests for continuances, withdrawals, postponements, or addition of ex-agenda items. I do not have any. Then item B is announcements and appeals. I have one announcement for an announcement of the Staff Hearing Officer decision on a coastal development permit for an accessory dwelling unit at 229 Mohawk Road. This is PLN 2021-00457 to allow the proposed development. Here we go. To allow the proposed development in the non-appealable jurisdiction of the city's coastal zone. The project consists of a proposal to demolish the existing 800 square foot single-family one-story residence and 511 square foot detached garage and construct a 1,911 square foot one-story residence, a 404 square foot attached garage, and a 602 square foot detached accessory dwelling unit. The 8,756 square foot lot is located in the non-appealable jurisdiction of the coastal zone with a coastal land use plan designation of low density residential and to zone E3 SD3. So just a little bit of clarifying messaging is that this accessory dwelling unit requires a coastal development permit, and the remainder of the project qualifies for a coastal exclusion. Therefore, the scope of this discretionary review, my review, is limited to the accessory dwelling unit. The accessory dwelling units in the coastal zone are governed by the Santa Barbara Municipal Code, Chapter 28.86. And they do require approval of a coastal development permit by the staff hearing officer, but do not require a public hearing. So I can accept written correspondence, but there is no public hearing, so that's why this particular item is in the announcements portion of this meeting. My decision is final, and that it cannot be appealed. Just to speak to this announcement, I did review the staff report for it, went out on site, and agree with staff's conclusions. So I'm going to go ahead and announce my decision that I approve the coastal development permit for the accessory dwelling unit, and that it's consistent with all the policies of the California Coastal Act as it is described in the staff report. The project will not result in any kind of adverse effects related to coastal resources, including public views, public access to the coast, or coastal bluff erosion. I can also make the findings that the project is consistent with all the applicable policies of the city's local coastal plan and implementing guidelines and all of the codes in the applicable provisions in the Santa Barbara Municipal Code. And my approval and these findings are subject to the conditions as outlined in the staff report, and I do not have any additional conditions to add. Those should suffice. So that is my announcement for 229 Mohawk Road, and then I will take it back. We have moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is general public comment. So this is for items, if anyone wishes to speak on items not on today's agenda, you may do so. And may I ask if we have anybody on Zoom who wishes to speak?
Thank you. We do not have any remote public comments, and I did not receive any speaker slips.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'm going to go ahead and close general public comment, and we'll move on to, God, I have no depth perception with this mask. I'm going to move on to item 2. Which is 210 Gray Avenue. There we go. The project consists of a change of use and interior tenant improvement to convert an existing warehouse to a wine tasting room or restaurant with food truck storage area, warehouse, and the project includes new kitchen space, bar, and accessible bathroom. The subject parcel is zoned OC SD3 with a coastal-oriented commercial medium-high residential land use designation in the non-appealable jurisdiction of the city's coastal zone. The discretionary application required for this project is a coastal development permit to allow a change of use in the non-appealable jurisdiction of the city's coastal zone. So we have Ms. DeBusk here today, who is representing the staff, and we'll go through a presentation. Then I'd like to invite the applicant to join to follow up. So Ms. DeBusk, whenever you're ready, I'm going to change it to that slide, and if you could speak into the microphone.
Great, thank you, Ms. Kokinda. So this project site is located south of Highway 101 and north of the railroad tracks and Yananali Street. It's in the non-appealable jurisdiction of the coastal zone, and it's zoned OC SD3, which is ocean-oriented commercial in the coastal overlay zone. The project site is 5,000 square feet. And if you could switch to the plans. Great, thank you. So the property is currently developed with a warehouse and 5 parking spaces, and that is shown in the site plan at the bottom of the screen. A recently approved building permit, which was issued in September 2021, approved some parking lot changes, but still results in 5 parking spaces on the lot, and that is shown in the site plan at the top of the page. The proposed project is to convert the warehouse to 2 tenant spaces. One would be for a wine bar, and one would be for storage of a food truck. A kitchen will serve both of the uses. So the city has a policy of requiring tenant spaces and land uses that have different parking requirements to be physically separated. This has been codified as a requirement in our zoning ordinance outside of the coastal zone, but in the coastal zone, it's still just a policy. And the intent of this is to prevent uses with a lower parking requirement, such as storage or warehouse, from being used as part of the use that has a higher parking requirement, such as a restaurant in this case, and without providing the appropriate parking. So the proposed floor plan does not include any physical barriers between the kitchen and the warehouse or food truck storage uses. And that's shown a little bit better on this section, where you can see the wine bar area is to the right of this demising wall. And then the kitchen is to the left, and there's no separation between the kitchen and the food truck storage area. The applicant has informed staff that County Environmental Health Services requires this direct access from the kitchen space to the food truck storage space. However, EHS has not reviewed the project plans to confirm this or to confirm that, that there is no ability to include a physical separation and be consistent with their requirements. So in order to address this, condition of approval is proposed that would require the applicant to submit confirmation from Environmental Health Services that a solid wall between the kitchen and food truck storage is prohibited from that agency's permitting process. And that would be required prior to zoning sign-off on the building permit for the project. If EHS notes that a solid wall is allowable, then the condition would require that the project incorporate a solid wall to separate the restaurant and storage space uses. So as described in the staff report, I'm gonna go back to the site plan here, or sorry, the floor plan. As described in the staff report, staff finds that the project is consistent with the California Coastal Act and the city's coastal land use plan policies. As I just mentioned, we've recommended that condition of approval regarding the separation of uses in order to ensure that the project is consistent and remains consistent with our coastal access policies related to parking. All work proposed for this change of use is interior to the existing building, so no design review was required, and staff found the proposal to be categorically exempt from environmental review. So with that, staff does recommend approval of the project, and I can answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. DeBusk. Now I'd like to invite the applicant to come up, and if you want to, we'll walk me through any considerations? I'm sorry we lost some of our chairs in here. We can always pull some more around. Thank you. Sorry about that. I should have had a little more foresight. And I think you might have to turn your mic on. Thanks.
Good morning. My name is Joe Androlitis, architect with Androlitis Mixon Architects. I'm here with Ted and Gretchen, who are the two tenants that are going to be moving into this space.
I'm the wine tenant.
I'm the
So I'm going to let them just kind of talk about their proposed businesses, and then I'll continue from there.
Should I start?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I know that there's really no one in the audience, but for our city TV, it's helpful to speak into the mic.
Oh, sure.
So for the recording.
Okay. My name's Gretchen Leaf, and I am the person behind the wine room. It's called La Leaf Wines. My brand is an all-female wine company, and we're really so looking forward to opening and doing great things in the community. I also work with the Santa Barbara Wildlife Care Network. I'm on the board of directors, and so we're going to be a satellite for wildlife. So we're really looking forward to opening. It's been a long, long wait, and so in terms of the technicalities of what are happening here, my only appeal is that we're just trying to open a business and do some good things. And I defer to my, my partners in terms of the specifics, but it's just, we've waited a long time. It's expensive, and I just am appealing to our process to be, help us open this business. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, my name's Ted Ellis, and I've actually been in Santa Barbara for over 10 years, working in restaurants, creating restaurants. This project here was kind of a simpler, idea to kind of appeal to, being able to service different areas and, really kind of push a different type of cuisine, mainly oysters, which, every restaurant, here in Santa Barbara, not everyone, but a lot of them serve oysters. One of the ideas for us was to, bring it into, more a casual, type of atmosphere. So that was the idea of, doing something a little easier and, bringing this to Santa Barbara and, wherever, the trailer may go. And by the way, it is a trailer, not a truck, which, that definitely helps out with the environmental health because there is no exhaust. But it is a beautiful, little mobile unit. So.
Can you say a little bit more about that, or like the difference between I'm trying to think of like what other instances I've seen a trailer versus a food truck.
We would tow it versus drive it. So
It's
it doesn't
literally
have
just a refrigeration, like a towed refrigeration.
Yeah, refrigeration. It has all the cooking units inside. It's more.
Yeah.
Taking the engine and the passenger area takes up a lot of room, so this actually allows for more space.
Got it. And so there's no like cutout or anything on the other side. It's really
There is a cutout.
okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So speaking about the uses, so obviously small tenant spaces are hard to come by in the city, so it was a really creative way of accommodating two tenants that didn't need the entire space. So that's why we split it up. It's kind of a shared environment for both tenants. You've seen similar uses on State Street with some other buildings that you've seen in the past. As far as the food truck storage and the prep kitchen is there to support the food truck. So any food that's serviced there is immediately put into the food truck. So they need direct access to the food truck. They don't have to go into another room to process that food and bring it into the vehicle. So, and then the health department requires all food trucks to have a commissary kitchen that supports them at an independent location. And that's what this is serving, and that's what the purpose is. But we weren't actually completely clear on the EHS requirement that Allison spoke of, so we'll obviously do that now. But that wasn't communicated to us in our last discussion. But we'll go ahead and move forward with that process and get that addressed as soon as possible, so we're not delayed. As far as
I'm sorry. Can you just clarify? Meaning that you'll try to get the letter from them, or you'll
but,
or
we need to
clarification.
get EHS approval, but we weren't aware of them addressing this directly.
EHS.
EHS.
Yeah. Okay.
Other than that, I think the rest of, Alice has spoke to all the exterior work was already done on a separate permit, so this is all interior work only. Other things as far as access to the other space, the food truck area doesn't have an independent exit, so that's why you see a connection between the two spaces. And they share restrooms. We need 2 restrooms for the space, so they're divided equally on each side. And then there's other areas that are shared as well, as the ice room, the office area, and the trash area that are going to be shared between both tenants. So with that, that concludes our presentation. I look forward to your comments.
Great, thank you. And I'm going to open it up to public comment. If you are a member of the public and you wish to speak and you're attending via Zoom, you can raise your hand by following the instructions on the screen. And do we have any interested parties who wish to speak?
Thank you. We did not receive any speaker slips, and I do see one attendee in the webinar that just joined, so please follow the instructions on the screen if you'd like to give remote public comment.
And this is for item number 210 Gray Avenue for a coastal development permit.
Thank you. We do not have any remote public comments.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and close public comment for this item, and we will just go to questioning. So a couple of things. So I'm just curious, operationally, so tell me, how does the trailer work with, like, as it's parked there? Is it going to be operating, or are you moving this trailer? Are you going to be all over the place driving it, and it's really just a place to store, and then, of course, use the kitchen to prep and load, and then leave? What's the, functionally, how are you intending for this trailer to work in the space?
Well, it will go anywhere it's hired. So, that's kind of the idea. It can go, it can go to weddings. We could, somebody could hire it in Colorado. That's a long trek, but, that's not going to.
Like, absolutely not.
No, but, the idea is that, anywhere, it's hired, or, if there's a, festival, or, there's something where it can go, that's the idea.
And then in terms of serving your business, the wine tasting, how much do you envision that it would be there or is that kind of a separate thing? You just want to both share the prep kitchen as well? I'm just curious, again, is it like anticipated that the food truck or trailer would serve your business as well and just be operating?
There will be some things that'll be prepped for her, but that's it.
Well, just simple, I think a breadstick, but no, we won't be serving their food in
No.
our.
But it would
stuff.
simply be using the kitchen and not necessarily the trailer space. Is that correct? Okay. And then, Mr. Andrew, this is probably more for you. Can you tell me when EHS reviews these plans, or maybe I don't know who's the best person to answer this, but generally, do you send them the whole plans, they review it and see how that meets, and then they give you sign off? What is their process?
Yeah, we'll submit the plans with the equipment schedule and all the equipment specs. They'll review it for compliance, and they'll have comments if they have comments, and then we'll address them, and then they stamp them, and then we usually, it's all digital now, but you guys get the stamped version, and then that's compliance for your process.
Great.
You get EHS approval.
And then can I ask to go back to the plans? I'm just curious, do you have any concerns that they won't be able to give you the approval? And if so, I'm just curious, like, have you thought about where a wall would go should it be required?
Yeah, we have some contingency plans if that were to be the case, but we're pretty confident that what we have is going to get approved.
And maybe this is for Mr. Busk. Just curious if there was some type of, if they weren't able to get that approval from EHS and then the condition would be triggered, what would the process be for having a revised plan for this applicant? Would they have to get a substantial conformance? really did a poor job of planning on all the furniture today. So I'm just wondering what the process would be if they had to revise their floor plan in order to achieve the conditions and the, if approved, as described in the staff report. What is the least intensive process for this
Right.
applicant?
So thank you. Because it is written as a condition, if EHS requires a wall, there's no additional process to add the wall. It would all be handled through the building permit approval process, so no additional substantial conformance either way.
Okay, that's helpful to understand. And then, so you're not obligated to necessarily share your contingency, but do you imagine it would drastically, in order to kind of make the puzzle piece work, would there be a lot of significant changes to the functionality of this?
I think I can answer that. I mean, we have an idea of where a wall would go. It's not ideal,
Right.
because, when you're, prepping stuff and putting stuff together, it's a lot easier to hand it to one person and then they take it in versus going through another door. It just makes operationally a lot tougher. But, listen, Gretchen and I have known each other for a long time, and we decided to do this together. And, I really don't want anything to hold this up anymore because, we want to capture summer and kind of, do that kind of thing. So whatever we need to do, we'll do. But it would be really nice if we could just, the before that, where those double doors are, that was the idea, to separate the spaces. And that was the main thing that I think when we met with Allison last time, and, that was the idea, was to separate the space. And so, we had done that, like Joe said, the EHS part we didn't realize. But, I've built here in town before, and I know the process of going through, environmental health. It's usually, one of the checks as you go through. The fact that it's a condition before permit, I'm kind of surprised on. So, we will do whatever we need to do. So, we have plans in place, but, it would be nice, whatever we can do to make this go as quickly as possible. If it's a counter change that we can do that just satisfies that as the condition, that would be much appreciated.
And if we don't have to wait weeks or months for this, it's devastating.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And then, again, it's just understood that it wouldn't necessarily be pulled out in the parking lot either, that, the parking is designated for parking, and that this would be the specific location for the
Right.
food truck or trailer. Okay, those are my questions. Actually, this is one more. It's really about just the neighboring property. It's a single-family residence. Is that occupied, out of curiosity?
Yeah, actually, we were just talking about that yesterday. I'll let Ted.
Yeah, so the woman who lives in that home, should I turn this on? Oh,
I think it's on.
okay. The woman who lives in that home, I've talked to her, and she's really nice. I guess she grew up there, and so she took over the house, and she's been there. She got this meeting on the thing. I talked to her. She was just like, oh, I don't need to go. She's, she has no problem with any of this. There's a fence in between. I've talked to her many times. She has the Schauhubs on the other side. We both kind of, talked everything together. They, if they ever do something, they will put her up in a hotel. It's a really good understanding with her, and she's great.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I know that's like a little bit outside, but I hadn't heard from the neighbor, and it was kind of, it's a little surprising to see a single-family residence right there.
Yeah.
Agreed.
You
Agreed.
kind of pass it. I mean, how many times do we go to the funk zone? And,
Yeah.
it's these
Yeah,
little
there's
places.
the open dialogue between her and both property owners, so.
Super friendly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seems to be working.
Okay, interesting. Well, thank you for commenting on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm ready to, those were all my questions. And first of all, I appreciate the initiation, the different business endeavors. It's exciting. It's always nice to see how different spaces can be used. It's nice to see different models for businesses and how they might be able to be supported, especially if it's difficult to find small spaces in Santa Barbara. I think you can understand when staff did the review of the zoning that this is a policy that in other parts of the city that are outside the coastal zone, that there's this wall requirement that is within the code. So this is just a policy, and that's why a condition was added. So again, it's only if EHS doesn't approve the design, that they say that this is necessary, that would be the case where you'd have to put a wall in somehow. Can you actually move that? I don't know if we just, oh, really? Okay, sorry. But generally speaking, it sounds like you've got a pretty solid idea of how the business works. And I mean, I worked in the restaurant industry for a long time, like all through grad school, so I understand the function of like just wanting to move to a kitchen, being able to move through and have things like easily accessible, and have that kind of be separate but together. So I don't necessarily have any issues. It's, I think some of the bigger concerns, it's something that EHS would also look at, is just the exhaust and dealing with environment, the health
exhaust.
stuff. Yeah, which is really, again, that's not my purview necessarily. That's their job.
Yeah.
So that's the things that they would be looking out for. So honestly, I agree with staff's assessment with and the conditions that are drafted in the staff report. So I can make the finding that for the coastal development permit, that this project is consistent with the policies of the California Coastal Act, and that the project is also consistent with all of our city policies, the city's local coastal plan, as well as all the implementing guidelines and provisions within our Santa Barbara Municipal Code under Title 28. So that, again, my approval is with the conditions of approval that are outlined here, and I wish you well in your next steps and getting through EHS, and hopefully you don't have to revise your floor plan. And that's it, and I'm going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm so sorry. There is a 10-day appeal period. Forgive me. I jumped the gun. So, yes, we have a 10-day appeal period. If I could ask Jillian if you wouldn't mind. Yes, so within 10 calendar days of my decision, anyone may appeal following these directions. Similarly, any member of the Planning Commission, if they were concerned about my conclusion, could suspend my decision within that same 10-day calendar period. But we would notify you if that were to happen. Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.